According to one of Mr. Arrington's clients, the dismissal occurred because the plaintiffs could not carry their burden of proof under Bruin. Specifically, according to their press release, they were unable to present critical evidence of the common use of the magazine's Colorado band. Yeah. You know why? Because the federal district court screwed up the analysis. Because again, these lower courts, these inferior courts in places like Colorado, California, Maryland, Chicago, Boston, D.C., you get the point? They don't apply the Supreme Court's Second Amendment precedent correctly. And basically they know it. They don't care. Because their attitude is the Supreme Court can only fix so many of our mistakes. And we're going to be as anti-American as we possibly can be, knowing that the Supreme Court can only fix about 70 terrible mistakes a year because that's the bandwidth they have. So the reality is this. The reason why you see cases perhaps dismissed, and I don't know the details of that, but part of the problem here is, listen carefully, the burden of proof under Supreme Court precedent is on the government to show that an arm is bannable or can be banned because it is dangerous and unusual. As I've explained before, in, for example, my article in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy entitled In Common Use, among other things, I point out that once the plain text is implicated by a modern gun control law and a ban of a type of arm, which is semi-automatic rifle is a type of arm, can be used offensively or defensively, once you have a ban on those kinds of arms, the plain text is satisfied and the burden shifts to the government. And the burden shifts to the government to do what? The government bears the burden to use history, a specific kind of history, historical laws, the traditional historical laws or historical legal tradition of firearms regulation to demonstrate that the modern day law is consistent with the founding era laws. And the U.S. Supreme Court, when it comes to an arms ban case, has already looked at all the history and concluded that the only historical tradition of banning firearms, the only historical tradition of banning firearms in the United States, as set forth and articulated in detail by Heller, is that if an arm is dangerous and unusual, that's the history. If a modern day arm is dangerous and unusual, it can be banned. But if an arm is in common use by Americans for lawful purposes, by definition, it cannot be unusual and therefore cannot be dangerous and unusual. But here's the critical thing, and this is where they refer to this Barry Arrington lawsuit in 2022 through 2024. As I understand it, if I recall correctly, the district court there basically shifted the burden of proof to the Second Amendment rights claimants, to the plaintiffs in the case, to demonstrate that these arms were in common use. But that's wrong. It's wrong, because the burden of proof to show that a particular arm that the government is banning is dangerous and unusual is not on the Second Amendment rights claimants. The burden of proof is on the government.